Since I was young, I have envied my aunt who was a concubine in a marquis's mansion. She had endless silks and satins to wear and endless rouge and powder to use. After I turned 18, I went to live with my aunt without telling my parents. My aunt was pregnant. She looked at me and said calmly, "It's because I'm pregnant that I'm qualified to take you home to live with me for a while. Whether you can stay in the mansion depends on your ability." She warned me not to mess with anyone except the prince. Who the other young masters of the Marquis mansion can hook up with depends entirely on my ability. I vowed, "And just wait and see, I will definitely be able to stay in the Marquis mansion." But I am really guilty. I was actually dazzled by a poor scholar living in a Marquis's mansion. He sat at the table with a pale face, drinking the pregnancy-maintaining medicine with an expressionless face. There was a loud thunder outside, which made me dazed. I said in a daze, "You said you were pregnant with my child." 01. Before going to the Marquis mansion, I was very confident. After all, I am one of the most beautiful women in Qingshui town. It is not a problem to seduce a young master as a concubine in the Marquis's mansion. For this purpose, I even had a fortune told in a temple outside the city. Good luck. The masters in the temple all said that I would be extremely wealthy in the future. I left Qingshui town without telling my parents. I don't want to marry the son of a blacksmith or the son of a tailor. If you want to marry, marry this one in a million noble young men. I accept being your concubine. When it comes to becoming a concubine, there is nothing wrong with giving it up. The only one was Fu Shiyan, who had lived in a Taoist temple all year round to recuperate. We were in a relationship, although we weren't serious. But when I drank tea, I used his tea bowl, and there were many lip marks left on it. When he slept at night, he rested his head on my old pillow, which still had the scent of my hair fumigation. The rouge I put on my face was specially sent by him from the capital. The purse tied around his waist was sewn by me stitch by stitch using the finest brocade. But no matter how reluctant you are, you have to let go. I can't possibly marry a sickly monk. Fu Shiyan has nothing, and we will get married in the future. Where to stay? What to eat? Do you want me to show up in public and become a wine seller on the street? Those days are scary just thinking about them. Before leaving, I met with Fu Shiyan. I dressed up carefully and wore the skirt he bought me some time ago. The material is excellent. The pink dress wrapped around my waist slenderly. I looked in the mirror before going out and quietly pulled my bra down a little. Fu Shiyan arrived at the pavilion in the mountains earlier than me. He was wearing a green robe that was neither new nor old, but his appearance was extremely otherworldly. I approached and said with disdain, "You're dressed like this again. Haven't you heard that Buddha relies on gold and people rely on clothes? Why would a wealthy person ask you for fortune-telling or blessings when you look like this?" I took out the new clothes I made for him from my bag and tried them on him a few times. Not bad, it fits me perfectly. This material is good, but I can't afford it. But the pockmarked young master from the tailor shop liked me, so I coaxed him into giving me away. After all, I am leaving, and he can't collect the debt I owe. Fu Shiyan looked at my empty ears, frowned and asked, "Did you pawn your clothes to buy your earrings?" The earrings were pawned and he gave them to me on my birthday last year. I didn't expect it to be so valuable. I pawned it for 10 taels of silver. I pawned my earrings to pay for my trip to the capital. I lied to him vaguely, I pawned it for 3 taels of silver. I gave him a tael and told him, "Don't copy scriptures all day long. It hurts your eyes. You don't have to buy me clothes, rouge, powder, hairpins or jewelry." He has no problem supporting himself. Fu Shiyan held the silver coin in his hand and sighed, "Chen Jiao Jiao, do you know how much that earring is worth?" My heart skipped a beat. Could it be that he knew that I had embezzled 7 taels of silver from him? There is absolutely no way I could give it all to him. I'm relying on this money for travel expenses to climb up the social ladder in the capital. Afraid that he would ask too many questions, I put my arms around his neck and kissed him in a hurry. The mountain wind made me feel cold all over, but my heart was warm. Fu Shiyan is usually a dull and indifferent person. But when I got close to him, he grabbed my waist without hesitation. I cursed in my heart. It turns out he is a hypocrite. I don't know how long we kissed before he let me go. He ate all the rouge on her lips. As the sky darkened, I had to leave. This time, Fu Shiyan was not asked to send him off. After walking for a while, I turned around and saw Fu Shiyan was still looking at me. I thought to myself, after this separation, we may never see each other again in this life. Fu Shiyan, I hope everything is going well for you. 02. I arrived at the Marquis mansion as I wished. My aunt was just over 2 months pregnant, and she was lukewarm when she saw me. She got married when I was 10 years old, and I haven't seen her for 8 years. I don't blame her for not being affectionate to me. When I saw her, I took out the shoes and socks I made for the child. The aunt leaned on the bed and did not take it to look at it. She told the maid to throw it into the box. I didn't care about her frivolous attitude and continued to serve her tea affectionately. When my aunt saw me like this, she smiled. But the smile was fake and not real. She sighed, "Seeing you being so shameless reminds me of when I came to the Marquis' mansion. I was so attached to my cousin, and no matter how others laughed at me, I was determined to stay. I helped her sit up, placed a pillow behind her waist, and laughed along. When I was home, the neighbors all said I looked like my aunt. But to me, I only inherited a third of her beauty." My aunt looked at me and raised her hand to touch my face. After a long pause, he said, "You were only 10 years old when I left home. You chased me all the way here, and gave me the 30 coins you saved. I've always remembered it. Jiao Jiao, I'll let you stay for 5 months. If you can stay after 5 months, that's your good fortune. If not, I'll send you back immediately. 5 months will determine my future. It means rapid success and overnight wealth. Or I will go back in disgrace and marry a peasant. It all depends on my ability. My aunt stays at home all day to take care of her health, and can't help me at all. I used my excellent cooking skills to get close to the second lady of the Marquis' mansion. She is the darling girl held in the palm of the Marquis' hand. She just had a bad temper, and no one wanted to get close to her. No matter what sarcastic words she said, I just responded with a smile. I racked my brains every day to make delicious food to flatter the past. I persisted like that for more than a month. The second young lady was eating the tofu soup I made. Suddenly he threw me a dime. She said with disdain, "Give me some good food. All you've been eating all day is tofu and vegetables. Even the best of your cooking skills are being wasted." I held the silver in my hand and smiled sincerely. "Second miss is worried that I have no money to spend." The second miss glared at me and said, "I don't feel sorry for you. Don't think I don't know what you're up to. You can curse as much as you want." But the second young lady ate so much of my food, and also gave me some advice. She whispered, "My eldest brother is destined to inherit the title. Mother sees that he is very strict. Any maid who flirts with him will suffer a bad fate, so don't even think about it. As for my second brother, he is obsessed with passing the imperial examinations and is a blockhead. It would be useless for you to get close to him. Only my third brother has been a playboy since he was a child. With your background, you have some hope of becoming his concubine." When talking about the third young master, the second young lady was somewhat disdainful. "The rules in the Marquis mansion are strict. I live in the backyard and don't see the young masters easily." The second young lady said, "Go find my fourth sister. Third brother is teaching her these days, so you'll meet her when you go." I got some advice from the second young lady. Go and curry favor with the fourth lady. The fourth young lady has just turned 8 years old, and is at an innocent age. I took great pains to make a number of little gadgets to get her to open up to me. She giggled, "I know why you came." Second sister told me. But third brother has been staying in Jinyuan to recuperate these days, and doesn't see people often. But I have an idea. I'll let you sneak in disguised as a maid. The fourth young lady was also kind-hearted and really helped me get a job as a maid in Jinyuan. Alas, everything was fine. But I didn't expect to see Fu Shiyan again. 03. My aunt gave me 5 months. It took me a lot of time to prepare the ground. By the time she became the third young master's maid, she only had less than 4 months left. The third young master was always smiling, but the first time I met him I was so nervous that I dropped the cup, anxiously picking up the broken porcelain pieces. When I squatted down, I suddenly made up my mind and cut my hand. The third young master heard my scream, and immediately came over to check. He looked at my bloody fingers and immediately pushed me down on the chair. I watched the third young master rummaging through the medicine box, looking very anxious. I thought to myself, it's just as the second young lady said. This third young master is a playboy who is attracted by money. He was so enthusiastic towards me as soon as we met. Time is running out. I'm going all out. The third young master sprinkled medicinal powder on my fingers and frowned as he said, "Don't get your hands wet recently, or the wound will fester and leave scars. In the past, you..." Having said this, he suddenly stopped talking. He looked up at me with tenderness in his eyes. This is too fast. Even though I am thick-skinned, I was mentally prepared. I didn't expect to fall in love with the third young master at first sight. The third young master's performance has come to an end, so I have to continue. I blushed and whispered, "But sir, I was assigned by the fourth lady to wash your clothes. It's impossible for me to wash them without getting wet." When the third young master heard the fourth young lady, he frowned for some reason. He didn't speak for a long time. I looked up at him and gently pulled the sleeve of the third young master. She asked him tenderly, "Sir, are you worried about something?" The third young master looked down at me and involuntarily raised his hand to touch my cheek. Really? I looked up at her appearance, which was most graceful and charming. If there were a little more tenderness in my eyes, everyone would be unable to help but look at me a few more times. In the past, if I had made Fu Shiyan angry, all I had to do was look up at him and pull his sleeve, and he would stop being angry. The third young master's hand touched my face, then he restrained himself and withdrew it. From that day on, I stayed in Jinyuan to serve the third young master. He washes his own clothes. He also did the job of serving tea and water. I became the beautiful lady in his room. All I need to do every day is read and write by his side. The day I saw Fu Shiyan again, I went to find the third young master with my pipa in my arms. When I was in Qingshui town, Fu Shiyan taught me to play the pipa. I'm thinking about taking things a step further with the third young master. TSK, using the skills Fu Shiyan taught me to hook up with other men feels quite complicated. The third young master sat under the pavilion drinking tea. I ran over and sat down next to him. He took out a handkerchief and wiped my forehead, saying with a smile, "I'm waiting for you right here." "Why are you running so fast?" I said coquettishly, "I want to play the pipa for you, sir." Unexpectedly, he was not surprised at all and smiled at me gently. Fu Shiyan came over at that time. I watched him appear and my mind went blank for a moment. He stood up subconsciously and no longer relied on the third young master. The third young master took my hand and introduced me, "Jiao Jiao, this is my good friend Fu Shiyan." Fu Shiyan looked at me coldly without saying anything. The third young master coughed lightly, his face a little embarrassed. "Shiyan, she is Jiao Jiao." Fu Shiyan finally spoke, saying meaningfully, "You rejected the marriage proposal from the Cheng'an Marquis' mansion, which angered your parents, who locked you up in Jinyuan to reflect on your mistakes. I thought you were living a dull life, so I came to see you. I didn't expect you to be so happy, enjoying yourself with the help of a beautiful woman." I could only pretend to be shy and hide behind the third young master. I lowered my head, feeling very anxious. It seems that I don't have much time left. The third young master never proposed to take me as his concubine. If at this time, Fu Shiyan hated me for abandoning him, and told the matter between him and me to the third young master, what shall I do then? Coincidentally, the third young master was going to the front hall to get something. Leave me and Fu Shiyan behind. As soon as he leaves, I hugged Fu Shiyan and said with tears in my eyes, I haven't seen you for a long time. I miss you so much. I have no choice but to leave you. Please don't blame me, okay? Fu Shiyan pushed me away and looked at me coldly. I didn't care, hugged him and kissed him, coaxing him and said, I will give you an explanation. Leave the door open at night and I will come to find you, okay? 04. The source of all the misfortunes was that night. Fu Shiyan was wearing the moon-white robe I bought for him, and sitting by the window waiting for me. When I saw his lonely look in the breeze and bright moon, my heart softened a little. When I went there, I made up my mind that no matter how he blamed me, I'll be humble and try to coax him first. Who would have thought that when they met, Fu Shiyan didn't say a single embarrassing word? There was a light on in the room, and the light was soft. There was wine and food on the table. Fu Shiyan took out a pair of pearl earrings and put them on me. He stared at me and whispered, Chen Jiao Jiao, I won't delay your pursuit of a good future. I just blame you for leaving in such a hurry. You didn't even get a chance to taste the peach blossom wine we buried under the tree. When Fu Shiyan said this, I felt even more guilty. I threw myself into his arms and cried for a long time while holding him. I'm not born a lowly person. She is also a good girl who is willing to save face. But in the past few months, I have been looked down upon in the Marquis mansion. Curry favor with the second and fourth young ladies. She was hooking up with the third young master in both true and false ways. I get tired sometimes too. Fu Shiyan knew that I was shallow and vain, so there was no need for me to pretend in front of him. Fu Shiyan and I sat together and drank. Drink one cup after another. As I was leaving, I tripped on the threshold. Fu Shiyan supported me, and I fell into his arms. I looked at his face and kissed him in ecstasy. Later he pushed me and refused to let me untie his belt. The two of them rolled onto the bed. He turned his head away and whispered, Aren't you going to be someone else's concubine? As a concubine, I naturally have to be a concubine. But the third young master had a reputation for being a playboy, and no one knew how many maids he had slept with. I was determined to use my body to seduce him, and make him take me as his concubine. But she was unwilling to let him take advantage of her for nothing. I am innocent myself, so of course I want to sleep with an innocent man for the first time. I coaxed and deceived him and slept with Fu Shiyan all night. Who knew that this kind of thing would happen again after the first time? During the day I served the third young master. At night, I couldn't help but sneak over to find Fu Shiyan. After a few visits, they stayed together for more than 3 months. My aunt is 5 months pregnant. She asked me to go back and gave me 20 taels of silver. I made up my mind to break up with Fu Shiyan completely and use my body to seduce the third young master. Who knew that as soon as we met, Fu Shiyan gave me shocking news. He is pregnant. Of course I don't believe it. A doctor was asked to wait at the corner gate. He only let Fu Shiyan stretch out his wrist to check. The doctor smiled and said, This lady is 3 months pregnant. Congratulations. My legs went weak, and I wanted to bang my head against the wall and die. But Fu Shiyan acted as if nothing had happened and drank the pregnancy-maintaining medicine calmly. I don't know when it started raining outside and thunder was roaring. Men can actually get pregnant. I was on the verge of collapse and met Fu Shiyan's eyes. With a determined heart, he gritted his teeth and said, Fu Shiyan, we can't keep this child. Beat him. 05. I went to the most remote clinic in the north of the city to buy abortion medicine. On the way back to the Marquis mansion, I felt dizzy, and my whole body was in a daze, unable to find any solid ground to stand on. As soon as I entered my aunt's yard, I heard her shrill screams. Basin after basin of blood was brought out of her room. The Marquis's wife stood in the courtyard with a serious face, sentencing the sixth concubine. The maidservant who served my aunt complained, I saw it clearly. My aunt had a stomachache because she drank the ginseng soup that sixth aunt brought her. Another doctor came over and said that the bowl of ginseng soup contained an abortion drug. The sixth aunt's young and charming face turned pale. The Marquis's wife immediately called for help, pressed her down on a bench, pulled down her pants, and started beating her severely. After only 3 or 4 blows, blood oozed from sixth aunt's body, and her howling gradually faded. My legs felt weak and my throat was very dry. The Marquis is here too. He stared at the bloody face of sixth aunt in silence for a while. He just said with regret, "What a pity." He then turned around and told his aunt to take good rest. He kept it understated from beginning to end, without showing any sadness on his part. Children and women seemed like just objects in his eyes. It turns out that this Marquis is such a heartless person. It's no wonder that the Marquis' wife keeps a close eye on the eldest son, hoping that he will bring honor to the family. Wait until the Marquis leaves. The Marquis's wife stared at the sixth concubine and suddenly said contemptuously, "You're relying on your favor to try to get ahead of me. There are plenty of young and beautiful girls out there. Don't take yourself too seriously." She asked the maid to bring a lot of things. Silks, satins, rouge, powder, gold, silver and jewelry. Those were the things I had always dreamed of. My aunt lay on the bed, her eyes slowly scanning over those things one by one. She finally managed a weak smile. The Marquis's wife chuckled and sighed, "Among all the Marquis's concubines, which one do I admire the most? It has to be you, Chen Qingtsao. You're willing to sacrifice your life for them, and you always know what you want. Rest well. I won't treat you unfairly in the days ahead." The room became quiet. I walked out from behind the curtain, threw myself on my aunt's bed, held her cold hand, and cried non-stop. I finally understood why my aunt never talked to me about the baby in her belly. "And why did you lock up all the things I made for my children?" It turned out that the child could not be born from the beginning. Seeing me crying, my aunt said impatiently, "What's there to cry about? I told you to leave, but you refused, and you insisted on seeing me in such a state of disgrace. Chen Jiaojiao, if you want to be my concubine, I won't stop you. But there's one thing you've learned today. Don't regret the path you've chosen. Think clearly about what you want from the beginning. Don't be hesitant and look back. This is the only thing I can teach you." I wiped my tears, took out the plum candy I had just bought from the oil paper bag, and put a piece into her mouth. I choked up and said, "Auntie, the pain will go away after eating some candy." My aunt's lips trembled slightly, and a tear oozed from the corner of her eye. "Wait until my aunt falls asleep." It was dark outside, and I went to find Fu Shiyan with my medicine bag. Perhaps it was stuffy in the house, so Fu Shiyan picked up a lantern and sat under the porch. He lowered his head and stroked his belly, and there was a softness on his face that I had never seen before. Was he actually looking forward to that child like this? But how can I give birth to the baby? He is a man, yet he did such a shocking thing. If someone finds out, they will treat him as a demon and burn him to death. My mind was in a mess and I walked up to him. Fu Shiyan looked at me and said with a smile, "After a while, the baby will be able to move. This time you can take care of her and raise her, so that she won't be born alone and always envy others who have mothers." What a bittersweet way he said it. It was as if he had already given birth once. I forced a smile. Fu Shiyan looked at what I was holding and asked, "What did you buy?" After he asked me this, the abortion pills in my hand became so heavy that I couldn't lift them. I remember when my aunt had a miscarriage, there were so many doctors who came to treat her, but she still felt like she had lost half her life. If I let Fu Shiyan drink it like this, I don't know if he will die. As he looked at me, I handed him the bag of plum candy. Fu Shiyan pinched one and ate it, and his brows and eyes relaxed, as if he had eaten some magic pill. Alas, in fact, my aunt had long passed the stage of morning sickness, and I lied to myself that I bought it for her. Actually, it was bought for Fu Shiyan. I remember when my aunt was more than 2 months pregnant, she only wanted to eat something with a strong flavor. When I passed by the store, I turned in for some unknown reason, and bought a bag of plum candy. This can't go on. Delay will lead to changes. I'm going to take Fu Shiyan back to Qingshui town, and find a doctor to perform an abortion on him. 06. When you say go, go, don't be vague. Otherwise, when the baby in Fu Shiyan's belly grows older, I will be in a difficult situation. I went to Jingyuan to find the third young master early in the morning, intending to make up an excuse to say goodbye to him. I stayed up all night to make an exquisite sachet for him to wear. That way he won't forget me. Seeing the objects reminds me of the past, hoping to continue our relationship in the future. Unexpectedly, as soon as I entered the study, I was caught. It turned out to be the Marquis's wife who came to Jingyuan in a grand procession with her maidservants. I'm not afraid. Anyway, it was just seducing an illegitimate third son. Furthermore, do we have any definite personal relationship? Unexpectedly, the young fourth miss, upon seeing me, yelled, "Mother!" It's this Chen Jiao who's been restless. Disguised as a maid, she sneaked into Jingyuan to seduce Big Brother. I looked up and met fourth Mrs. gaze in disbelief. There was a glint of cunning and shrewdness in her eyes, which was completely different from the innocent look she had when she was playing with me. She came close to me and whispered, "You are a poor, lowly girl, yet you dream of becoming a phoenix. Dream on." It turns out that the third young master is actually the legitimate son of the Marquis. My heart skipped a beat, and I felt that I was doomed. The second young lady repeatedly told me not to set my sights on the eldest young master. The eldest son will inherit the title in the future, so he needs to keep himself clean, and maintain the declining marquisate. Besides, the lady wanted him to marry a daughter of a noble family, and would never let the eldest son focus on concubines or maids. The Marquis's wife sat at the table, looked at the eldest son's essay, and sighed. After being confined in Jingyuan for a few months, his writing has become even more refined. It looks like he has a good chance of getting first place in the imperial examination next spring. I held my breath and dared not make a sound. The Marquis's wife looked up at me and sternly said, "What are you all standing there for? Take them out and give them a good beating." I remembered the miserable sight of sixth, and having her pants stripped off and beaten on a bench. I knelt on the ground and said without hesitation, "Madam, please listen to me. I am a lowly person, and I do have the desire to climb up the social ladder. But I also know that you have repeatedly warned me not to seduce the eldest son. How could I dare to do so? Even if I am not thinking about myself, I am thinking about my aunt. I really mistook the eldest son for the third son, which is why I almost got into trouble." I heard the Marquis's wife sneer. He said with increasing humility, "Please, madam, be magnanimous and let me go. I will leave immediately." The Marquis's wife said indifferently, "I thought you were going to use your relationship with my son to coerce me, but I didn't expect you to be so flexible. Stand up." An anxious voice came from the door. "Mother." It turned out that the eldest son had returned. As soon as he saw me, he came over and held my hand. I winked at him. The eldest son immediately walked over to the Marquis's wife, breathed a sigh of relief, and then smiled. "You sent me to the temple to pray for you, yet you yourself came to Jingyuan to check on my homework. What's wrong? Have I been lazy these days?" The fourth young lady feigned innocence and asked, "Big brother, why did Sister Chen come to Jingyuan disguised as a maid? I saw a lot of little girls' trinkets on the treasure chest. Could it be that Sister Chen lives here? She is so young, yet she is so vicious." I made a quick decision and said, "Thank you, master, for hiring me as your musician for Fu Shiyan's sake. However, I have something to do at home, so I must leave." The Marquis's wife smiled and said, I didn't expect that you and Taoist Master Fu are old acquaintances. The eldest son smiled and replied, yes, Miss Chen is an expert at playing the pipa. When my mind wanders while studying, I feel enlightened when I hear her play. The fourth young lady said unwillingly, Sister Chen's background is so poor, how could she afford to support her pipa lessons? Big brother, are you lying? In order to stop her from talking, I played a song on the pipa. The fourth young lady wanted to say more, but the Marquis's wife spoke directly and told her to go out and play. The three of us were left in the study. The eldest son knelt on the ground without saying a word. He said calmly, Mother, I know you couldn't have hidden what I said earlier. It was simply because fourth sister was here that you cooperated to save my son's dignity. Miss Chen mistook me for third brother. It was my son who had a dirty mind and never clarified it. I held my breath. The Marquis's wife personally helped the eldest son up, and said with a loving look in her eyes, You are a piece of flesh that fell from my body. How could I not love you? However, there are some things that you must obey me. Mingchuan, as long as you can successfully inherit the title and start a family, I will personally make the decision and bring Chen Jiaojiao into the palace to be your concubine. As she spoke, her eyes fell on me. But not now. You can go back now. I won't shortchange you on money or anything else. I want you to return home in glory, which will fulfill your original intention. Can be the eldest son's concubine. This was like a huge gift from heaven, almost making me dizzy. I didn't have time to savor the feeling, so I could only kneel down instinctively to thank the lady. I looked at the shoes of the lady and the eldest son, and all the inexplicable emotions in my heart were swallowed up. My aunt is right. You have to think carefully about what you want and never hesitate. 07. When I arrived, I was alone and very poor. When they left, they rode in a carriage that was full of things. When I was leaving the city, the eldest son actually came to see me off. There was a sadness and tenderness in his eyes that I could not understand. I thought about it and said softly, Master, Jiao Jiao will never forget these days. Unexpectedly, he sighed bitterly, in your heart, you're actually blaming me for not being able to protect you in front of Mom, right? I blinked. He hugged me tightly and said, Chen Jiaojiao, wait for me. For 2 years at most, I will give you a decent life. From then on, you don't have to be humble and kneel before my mother. You don't have to endure grievances and have no way to seek justice when being framed by fourth sister. Out of the corner of my eye I saw the curtain of the carriage move. I don't know if Fu Shiyan is watching. I made up my mind and left a light kiss on the eldest master's cheek. The eldest son let me go, stroked my hair, and said with a helpless smile, You. He handed me a bundle, looked at me lovingly, and said, inside are some fashionable clothes from the capital. Change into them when you return to Qingshui town. I guarantee you'll be splendid and the envy of everyone. To be honest, I was only half sincere towards the eldest young master before. Now I have received the clothes, which is 5 points. How did he know that I regretted not having made some nice clothes? The eldest son met my surprised look and smiled. He said gently, Jiao Jiao, can you call me by my name? There was a noise from inside the carriage. I knew it was Fu Shiyan who was causing trouble, and I started to panic. I returned to the carriage. The driver continued driving on. Fu Shiyan looked at me calmly and ate the plum candy silently. In the silence, my palms were sweating. Finally, I made up my mind and stuck my head out of the window. The eldest son is still waiting for me there. He saw me show up and waved to me. I waved my handkerchief and shouted, Qin Mingchuan. I've been waiting for you in Qingshui town for 2 years. You must come pick me up. The eldest son smiled and shouted, Okay. Chen Jiaojiao. Wait for me. The carriage went farther and farther away from the capital. I looked at the valuables in the car, held Fu Shiyan's hand, and said solemnly, Give birth to the child. I will use Qin Mingchuan's money to support you. I want wealth and glory. I want the love between a man and a woman. Child, I want one too. There's nothing I can do about it. I've been such a greedy and vain person since I was a child. 08. The carriage stopped at the entrance of the alley, immediately attracting many people to come and look. I didn't get off the bus immediately but waited for more people to come. Until I heard the voice of Aunt Wong next door. Which lady is this who has come to our alley? Who knows? The carriage is quite luxurious. I then coughed lightly, asked the driver to lift the curtain, and got out of the car gracefully. When the neighbors saw me, they all exclaimed in surprise. It's the eldest daughter from the Chen family. Oh, she's like a fairy. I can't even recognize her. I grabbed a handful of candy and shared it with the children who came running over. Aunt Wong looked at me, curled her lips and said, "Oh, it really is Chen Jiaojiao. Your parents said you went to visit relatives in Beijing, but I clearly feel that you eloped with someone." I smiled at her and said, "Aunt Wong, you're going to be disappointed. I'm engaged to someone in the capital. He's not a prominent figure, just an ordinary noble family in the capital. I'm going to marry him in 2 years." Aunt Wong put on a sullen face and left feeling unhappy. I secretly let out a sigh of relief. Her son was making a fuss at home about marrying me, but she was jealous of me. She said for no reason that I was no longer innocent, which caused my mother to have a big fight with her. Walk home in a high-profile manner. When I arrived at the door of my house, I looked at the old wooden door with peeling paint. It actually takes some courage to push it open. There were already countless noises coming from inside the door. For some reason, the eldest and second sisters-in-law started arguing again. The sound of several nieces and nephews screaming and running around. I don't know who started crying again, howling endlessly, and no one came to stop them. I prayed silently that the child of Fu Shiyan and I would have a peaceful life in the future. He took a deep breath and opened the door. What hit me was a foul smell. The was placed at the door, and no one went to empty it. The eldest nephew beat his second niece until she cried, and the two started fighting again after a few arguments. The small yard was filled with miscellaneous items, and clothes were hung out to dry on ropes. After hearing this, I finally understood why the sisters-in-law were arguing. The two of them shared my room and my things. Each person feels that the other has taken advantage. They were arguing so loudly that they didn't even notice me come in. The 8-year-old little sister was sitting on a stool washing clothes. The big wooden basin was filled with clothes of my brothers and sisters-in-law. She lowered her head and kept rubbing. I don't know when to wash it. She suddenly raised her head and looked at me. First there is joy, then there is sorrow. The little sister stood up, wiped her hands, and started crying without saying a word. I walked over and touched her head. My younger sister clutched my hand tightly and cried, "Sister, didn't you go to climb the ladder? Why did you come back?" I kicked the basin of water on the ground hard. There was a huge noise and the yard was finally quiet. The two sisters-in-law looked at me and looked at each other. My nephews and nieces stopped crying and fighting. My mother heard the noise and poked her head out from the kitchen. She was stunned when she saw me. Then he rushed over and twisted my arm and hit me twice. She cried and couldn't utter a word. I pulled out the thin gold bracelet from my bosom, put it on her hand, and said in a muffled voice, "You've pawned all your decent dowry, and this is the only thing you have left, and you're stuffing it into my bag." My mother wiped her tears and complained to me, "Why, life in the capital is so hard. Are you missing home again?" She said this, then looked at me for a few seconds, and when she saw that I was fine, she breathed a sigh of relief. I ran away secretly, how could my mother not know? But she didn't stop me. Instead, she quietly stuffed a gold bracelet into my bag. I was sitting in the escort vehicle heading to the capital, and when I took out the bracelet, I cried so hard that I almost died. Alas, this is my mother. My dear mother. She kept clamoring for me to quickly pick someone to marry. Whenever my sister-in-law said something sarcastic, she would start to defend me. But I was determined to pursue a bright future, and she supported me. 09. I have 2 older brothers, a younger sister, and a younger brother who died young. My brothers got married early and had children early. The house is always noisy. The whole family was squeezed into 3 rooms, and there was no room for any extra things. My parents support a large family, and it's good enough if they can fill everyone's stomachs. But she gave birth to a daughter like me who has been vain since childhood. See others wearing silk flowers on their heads. The red rope on my braid feels a bit shabby. She worked day and night to embroider handkerchiefs for people, just to save enough money to buy a fine silk flower. There was someone in the alley wearing a beautiful dress. I thought day and night about how I could wear it. Later, my aunt married into a marquise mansion and sent back some things from time to time. The silk cloth was specifically given to me. But how can I really get it all? When I left the house, only a little bit of the 3 pieces of satin was left for me. I stood on a stool, crying and howling, wanting to hang myself at the door. Dad picked up a feather duster and beat me severely. In the middle of the night I cried, felt sad, and had no interest in life. My mother pulled me out of the bed, holding 2 small pieces of clothing that she had made for me. The light pink material is light and soft. The stitches are fine and there are elegant flowers embroidered on it. My mother took out 2 boiled eggs, cracked them on my forehead, and fed them to me. She sighed first, "Why did I give birth to a debt collector like you? You have the body of a young lady but the life of a maid. I should have known I shouldn't have named you Jiao Jiao. I should have called you something like duck egg or date flower. Cheap names are easier to raise." I was so angry that I laughed and hit my mother's arm. My mother also laughed, hugged me, and helped me try on the clothes. She also praised me. "Look at how fair and tender my daughter is, with a slender waist and soft breasts, she is so attractive." After praising me, he ate the eggs. My mother advised me, "Don't be so arrogant and cocky all the time, thinking about climbing the social ladder. Accept your fate early, and you'll save yourself the heartache. Live the life that suits your personality." I will never accept my fate. Once these 2 words are written, life seems to be over. Like a dung ball, it rolled down in a grey manner, without any hope. I was born a cook's daughter and live in a crowded house. Should I just accept my fate? If God really wanted me to accept my fate, He shouldn't have let me be born as beautiful as a flower. I always have to struggle. The worst that could happen is that it would be smashed to pieces. But what if I really become rich? My parents always think that it is right for me to marry someone who is similar. I think there is no right or wrong in this world. It's just a choice. If I really marry into a wealthy family and live a life of wealth and glory, my choice will be correct. I was eager to climb up the social ladder, but I wasn't just sitting at home fantasizing about finding a handsome man. If you want to talk to the gentleman, you have to read a few books and know a few words. Don't turn around when people are talking. I can only be like a dumb quail, and can't understand anything. It's fun, the gentlemen are flirting, I find it interesting, and this is how we can communicate with each other. That was also when I started to target Fu Shiyan. Given the situation at home, it was absolutely impossible to send me to school to learn how to read and write. Fu Shiyan is a lay Buddhist in a Taoist temple on the mountain. Penniless and helpless, I chose a cloudy day to go to burn incense. It started raining when I was about to leave, and I slipped and broke my leg. Fu Shiyan held an umbrella and helped me to the pavilion. He applied medicine to me and played the pipa for me. It's so beautiful when a man plays the pipa. For the first time, I hoped it would rain continuously. He helped me, so I came to thank him. We became familiar with each other after a few interactions. I learned a lot of words from Fu Shiyan and can understand simple storybooks. Over time, I also learned to play the pipa very well. He always treats me with gentleness and kindness. Give me an empty dressing case. I said in a sweet voice, how can I put jewelry in there? Fu Shiyan smiled softly, and like a magic trick, he took out a jade peach blossom hairpin, and a pair of teardrop-shaped earrings. I was immediately happy and happily asked him to put it on me personally. Fu Shiyan tapped my head and said, what others have, you will also have. What others don't have, you will also have. Be happy, I will slowly fill this box for you. Don't take the words your brother and sister-in-law scolded you to heart. When I came, I was lost. A 16-year-old girl without any jewelry. My sister-in-law lost the gold hairpin that came with her as a dowry, and she actually blamed me for it. The couple joined forces and stood in the yard, cursing the thief out of the house. My sister-in-law's words were extremely harsh. Everyone knows that some people are short-sighted. If a man offers them a little benefit, they'll be eager to take off their clothes and get involved. They'll always complain about who's poor and who's ugly and won't marry. If you ask me, just drag it out. When you're in your 20s and become an old maid, you might as well become a prostitute. My mother was so angry that she slapped my sister-in-law. My father was also angry and beat up my eldest brother. I was originally angry at my sister-in-law for her harsh words, but when I saw her pregnant, I stomped my feet and ran away. When she saw Fu Shiyan, she burst into tears without saying a word. He is a cold person and doesn't coax me. He just poured me tea, brought some snacks and pushed them in front of me. After eating and drinking, I felt refreshed and spoke a lot. I held my breath and said, my sister-in-law asked me to meet her nephew. What a stinky man he is. He stinks and has pockmarks all over his face. Why can't I just despise him for being ugly? I have to find a handsome man who is unparalleled in the world, and make my sister-in-law look at him with new eyes. Fu Shiyan straightened his clothes and asked me calmly, so what do you think of me? I glanced at him, refusing to respond. I simply said, I wouldn't be in a relationship with someone for nothing. Fu Shiyan gave me the makeup box and a few pieces of jewelry. Before leaving, I looked around to see if there was anyone around, so I hugged him. He refused to let go and pecked me on the cheek. I was so scared that I pushed him away and ran all the way home with a red face, afraid of being seen. When I got home, I found out that my eldest brother had cried, "Stop thief," and had stolen my sister-in-law's dowry and pawned it. At the dinner table, there was a chicken drumstick at the bottom of my bowl. I looked up and saw my sister-in-law looking at me. I ate it silently, and we made peace. In fact, what can we do if we don't reconcile? My eldest brother lost money gambling outside, and was beaten severely by my father with a rattan stick. My sister-in-law was pregnant and couldn't rest all day, so she had to find ways to do some work. The eldest brother can also go out drinking and gambling to relieve his loneliness. As for my sister-in-law, she can only worry and feel depressed every day. In this world, women always have a harder time living. A woman without money lives in a dark shadow, as damp as moss, forgotten and ignored. Well, in short, I have made up my mind not to live this kind of life. Since then, I have been obsessed with climbing up the social ladder. I worked harder and harder to learn from Fu Shiyan. Be it reading and writing, playing the pipa, or making incense. I will work hard to learn any skills that can help me move up. People cannot fight an unprepared battle. Opportunities come to those who are prepared. It's okay. I learned from Fu Shiyan for 3 years, and used it all with the eldest son of the Marquis' mansion. He praised my handwriting for its elegance. But he didn't know how much effort Fu Shiyan put into teaching me. Fu Shiyan personally wrote the calligraphy, and bought me writing brushes and ink. He used handkerchiefs and snacks to encourage me to study hard. I can explain everything about the incense burning in the eldest master's room. He smiled and praised me for my broad knowledge. I lowered my head and blushed, but I was thinking in my heart that Fu Shiyan was just knowledgeable and experienced. When the eldest son didn't want to study, I played the pipa. He calmed down and had ideas for writing. Alas, the eldest master loves me and promised to take me away. But he didn't know that I was taught to be this way by Fu Shiyan. In the past, Qin Jiaojiao couldn't even read or write, let alone write poetry and romance. I don't even know my own name and can't write it. Fortunately, hard work pays off. I came back in glory. I asked Fu Shiyan to take most of the property I brought from the capital back to the Taoist temple. I lied and said that my aunt asked me to bring the remaining things. 10. The whole family sat at the table and looked at those things. My father spoke first and asked, "How is your aunt doing?" I remember before leaving. "My aunt is still lying in bed and can't get up." She said to me, "Jiao Jiao, don't feel sorry for me. This is the life I want. If my wife is kind enough to agree to give me a child, I won't be lonely anymore. I'll have enough to eat and drink, and wear gold and silver jewelry. This is better than staying in the countryside and marrying a butcher. I'll have endless children, beatings, and work all day long." I know about the old story. When my aunt was young, my grandfather wanted to marry her to a pig butcher in order to arrange a marriage for my uncle. Just because the butcher gave a lot of betrothal gifts. But that man drove away one wife and killed another wife, so how could he be a good match? It was my father who sent my aunt away overnight. He gave her some money, let her take the escort agency's car, and sent her to live with her cousin who worked in the Marquis's mansion. For this, my aunt is grateful to us, and has sent many things home over the years. Many of the ignorant respects I had, when I was young, were given by my aunt. I recalled the past and said proudly, "And is doing very well. She is extremely favored in the Marquis's mansion." When I left, the Marquis's wife even gave aunt a lot of gifts. My father puffed on his pipe and said, "You ran away because you didn't want to marry the blacksmith's son. I thought you wouldn't come back, so I divided your house among your sisters-in-law. You lied to the neighbors and said you were engaged and would be getting married in 2 years. But there was no room for you at home." My mother said anxiously, "If we don't let her live at home, are we going to let her sleep on the street?" My second sister-in-law started crying first, "Mom, but the children are all grown up. Can we still let boys and girls sleep in the same big bed? How can we do that?" My eldest sister-in-law also lowered her head and said, "My sister-in-law is already 18 years old. Even if mother is reluctant, she should get married. If she doesn't want to marry into a blacksmith's family, she can just look for a few good families." The two brothers said nothing. But my 5-year-old niece suddenly asked, "Mom and Dad, when I grow up, will you also urge me to get married?" The eldest sister-in-law's face turned pale, and she forced a smile. The eldest brother glared at his niece. My sister clung to me tightly, about to cry. "If I don't leave, I will really become the sinner of this family. My aunt is right. When a woman grows up, she has no home." I gritted my teeth and said, "Mom and Dad, if it were you, I should have divided the family long ago. After that, I would take care of you." These words hit my father hard. He slammed the table and shouted angrily, "It's not your place as a daughter to dictate matters to my Qin family. I'm still here, why divide the family? If you don't want to marry the blacksmith's son, then marry the son of the silk shop. You won't have to sit around at home all day, developing an uneasy heart, and always yearning for things that don't belong to you." I said unwillingly, "Dad doesn't want to divide the family, so Mom has to work hard to take care of the children. You work yourself to death to support my brothers. Mom is always busy, and her hair has turned white early. You are old, but you still have to go out to work, and your back aches at night, and you toss and turn, unable to sleep. Aren't you just afraid that if the family is divided, you, as the head of the family, will have no say and no authority?" With a snap, a loud slap hit me in the face. I endured it and my heart was completely cold. I should have understood long ago that no matter how poor a family is, women are not allowed to resist. Women should work hard and dedicate themselves to their work without complaint, and should not have any frivolous thoughts. You should accept your fate of poverty and work hard. Once you have the desire to change your fate, you will become restless and want to be criticized. My mother hurriedly hugged me and said, Dad, why are you so angry with your child? My father was so angry that his whole body was shaking, and he slammed the door and left. My eldest and second brothers looked at me complainingly. The sisters-in-law kept mumbling, but in the end they didn't say a word for me. The nephew yelled, Auntie is back. Do I have to share a bed with my sisters again? I don't want to. Wait until everyone has dispersed. I went to find my things in silence. She snatched my bracelet from my eldest sister-in-law's wrist and pulled my pendant from my second sister-in-law's ear. He rummaged through all the boxes and cabinets, searched every room, and took away all the things. When I turned around, my sister was standing at the door looking at me with tears in her eyes. I gritted my teeth and asked her, Lien, do you want to come with me? My parents are busy, and I raised my sister almost single-handedly, and I can't bear to leave her. My sister happily went into the house, picked up a small bag, and was ready to go with me. Walked to the entrance of the alley. My mother stood there, looking at me sadly. She stuffed a heavy purse into my hand. My mother sighed and said, I've made thorough inquiries about that lay monk from Qingshu Monastery. He's a man of good character. I'll be relieved if you really follow him. Listen, I thought I could hide the truth from Fu Shiyan, but actually, nothing can be hidden from my mother. My purse is so heavy, how could my mother give me so much silver? After all, it was my father who relented and allowed her to support me. I hugged my mother and cried bitterly, whispering to her, I hid money in your room, and you spent it secretly. Buy Dad some good plasters and tobacco. Buy yourself a new mirror and a decent hairpin, so you don't always let Aunt Wong laugh at you. I didn't want the money and just stuffed it into her arms. My mother cried non-stop, but in the end she didn't ask me to stay. I walked with my sister for a while, then turned back to look at her, crying, Mother. I put a curse on that money. If you spend it on my brothers, their hands and feet will rot. My mother laughed and cried when she heard this, and scolded me, You're such a nuisance. Walked out. Still walked out. My sister held my hand tightly and asked me crying, Sister, are we homeless? I wiped my tears and saw Fu Shiyan standing under the moonlight. I said firmly, Wherever I am, that's our home. People cannot always stand and cry over their own fate. There is no end to the tears and no end to the suffering. As the old saying goes, a tree that is moved will die, but a person who moves will live. I don't want to worry about tomorrow anymore. I just want to experience the joy of the present. I, Chen Jiao, want to climb up the social ladder and live a life of wealth and glory. 11. Fu Shiyan is pregnant, and I'm afraid he will be recognized. We simply rented a carriage and moved to a different place. The money Qin Mingchuan gave us was a lot, enough for us to live comfortably. We stayed in Qingzhou. There are many well-known medical clinics here, and if Fu Shiyan has any problems during childbirth, there are doctors who can treat him in time. It was the first time my sister heard that a man could get pregnant. But when she knew that Fu Shiyan was pregnant with my child, she was no longer surprised. She said proudly, My sister is really capable. She can make a man give birth to a child. Fu Shiyan lay in the rocking chair basking in the sun and said with a smile, Yes, your sister is capable. I rented a house and hired a cook and a cleaning maid. We are living our lives now. Sitting in the room and counting the remaining money, I knew that I couldn't live off it. Qin Mingchuan promised to send me money every month. But I don't know how long this promise will last. What if he doesn't come to pick me up in 2 years, and I have no money to spend? By then I will have to raise children and a younger sister, and life will be very difficult. I thought about it and decided to start a small business. Fu Shiyan felt sorry for me and chuckled, You've also been working hard to raise your child. I glared at him and said, If I had known men could get pregnant, I would never have touched you even if you killed me. Oh hey, so worried. I thought about it and quickly wrote a letter to Qin Mingchuan. Fu Shiyan walked over and recited, I miss you but can't see you. I'm heartbroken every day. Your lyrics are not well written. They are too straightforward and not graceful enough. But Qin Mingchuan likes your straightforward and passionate energy. It's not bad. I ignored his sour words and wrote the letter seriously. The eldest young master is a very kind person. If he really comes to take me as a concubine in 2 years, I will wake up laughing in my dreams. When that time comes, you will raise the child outside and are not allowed to marry. As the saying goes, if you have a stepmother, you will also have a stepfather, and I will not allow my child to have a stepmother. I will be a good concubine to the eldest young master, and send you money regularly so that you and your daughter can live a good life. Fu Shiyan suddenly cried out in pain. Startled, I dropped my pen and asked, "What's wrong? Leg cramp? Or short of breath?" Fu Shiyan grabbed my hand and placed it on his stomach. The child kicked me. There was a slight movement on his bulging belly. I put my palm on it and had an indescribable feeling. To be honest, Fu Shiyan is 6 months pregnant. I still feel like this is all a dream. Only at this moment did it become real. I quickly said, "Hurry up and sit down. Don't get tired." My younger sister poked her head in and called out, "Sister, the hot water is ready, it's time for my brother-in-law to soak his feet." Fu Shiyan's legs were swollen, and he had cramps from time to time. Soaking your feet before going to bed will make you feel much more comfortable. I was thinking, before Fu Shiyan came along, I couldn't leave him. He was pregnant and stayed at home all day, without anyone to talk to. There is always time to make money. I can't let him have a child for me alone. Spend more time with him. In a blink of an eye, Fu Shiyan was already more than 9 months pregnant. His belly was horribly large. The child is very naughty. I often saw Fu Shiyan's belly bulging here and there. At night, we lay in bed. I lifted his clothes and looked left and right. She said sadly, "Alas, where did you give birth to this child?" I secretly went to the temple during the day. In the past, people sought wealth and prosperity. Now, kneeling there, after so many thoughts and worries, I only have one wish. May Fu Shiyan be safe and sound and give birth to the child. Fu Shiyan lazily pointed at the red line on his belly and said, "When the time comes, this line will split, and the baby will come out from here." I was shocked. Isn't this just like cutting open someone's stomach? Too horrifying. But when Fu Shiyan talked about it, he didn't seem afraid at all. I didn't dare act horrified and make him worry. I can't sleep well at night. In a daze, I had a bizarre dream. 12. In my dream, I did leave Fu Shiyan when I was 18 years old. The two of us stayed in his room until dawn. The next day, I quietly left him and went to the Marquis mansion. Fu Shiyan lay on the bed, turned over, and quietly twisted the hair on the pillow. Not long after, he left the Taoist temple and found a secluded place to live. He is still pregnant. My belly is getting bigger day by day. But at that time, no one took care of him. He had severe morning sickness and often vomited everything he ate. Sometimes I vomit until there is nothing left in my stomach, only clear water mixed with blood. The 3rd month of pregnancy was when he had the worst morning sickness. When I woke up at night and saw Fu Shiyan trying to get out of bed, I knew he was hungry. His legs went weak and he fell to the ground, not having the strength to get up. I was so anxious that I wanted to help him, but I was powerless. Fu Shiyan lay on the ground for a long time. He endured the pain and poured himself some water. As a result, the teapot fell to the ground and pierced his hand, causing it to bleed profusely. I looked at Fu Shiyan, covering his face with his hands, his shoulders trembling slightly. He murmured, "Chen Jiao Jiao, I really hate you." I floated in the air, pursing my lips. "I didn't know you were pregnant, why do you hate me?" Fu Shiyan sat for a while, then stood up with the help of the wall. He went to the kitchen, heated up a steamed bun, and ate it slowly. The month is older. He still had cramps in his legs and feet, and woke up in pain at night and massaged himself. No one helped him boil water for soaking his feet. No one helped him find a doctor to take his pulse. I saw that he was ill, and had a fever that made him confused. I guess there's really no other way. Fu Shiyan changed into women's clothes, put on a hood, and went to the city to see a doctor and get medicine. He went alone, waiting in line for a pulse check with his big belly. The doctor was furious. Your health is so poor. How can your family take care of you? You're leaving a pregnant woman out on her own in the pouring rain to get medicine. You're already half dead before you even give birth to the child. Fu Shiyan coughed so badly that he couldn't speak. He took the medicine in silence. He didn't bring an umbrella when he came, and he went home in the drizzle all the way. The medicine is ready. There is a bitter taste. Fu Shiyan looked at his big belly and said softly, your mother should have got what she wanted and become a concubine in the Marquis mansion. After he finished speaking, his face turned pale and he sneered, I'm not thinking about that stinky woman. He drank the medicine with a sullen face. Who knew that she would give birth at night? I watched helplessly as the red line on his stomach slowly split open, and a lot of blood flowed out. I was scared to death. Fu Shiyan's face and body were covered in sweat due to the pain. He's going to be scared to death too. He burst into tears and cried in despair, what kind of monster am I? Chen Jiao, where are you? Oh my God. Oh my God. Why is Fu Shiyan living such a miserable life in the dream? I yelled, Fu Shiyan. He sat up suddenly. The whole person was drenched in cold sweat. Why was that dream so real? Fu Shiyan beside him frowned. He opened his eyes, frowned, and whispered, Jiao, I'm about to give birth. 13. Fu Shiyan gave me instructions in an orderly manner. Hemostatic powder and gauze boiled in water. Special needle and thread. All kinds of things had been prepared long ago and placed at his fingertips. I have already spent a lot of money to hire a doctor, and my sister has already gone to hire someone else. He wants me out. I remembered how lonely he was in my dream. Holding his hand, she trembled and said, I won't leave. Fu Shiyan, you are afraid too, right? Fu Shiyan's lips turned pale, tears welled up in his eyes as he said, yes, I was scared too. Chen Jiao, if you knew I was pregnant, would you have stayed with me like you do now? I nodded vigorously, I will. I definitely will. You should keep me. Fu Shiyan's soul seemed to have drifted away, muttering to himself, I was afraid you would hate me, despise me. I didn't dare to keep you, and I couldn't keep you. At that time, I was wandering outside, adrift, afraid that I couldn't give you the future you wanted. How could I tie you down with a child born by a monster? Stop talking, stop talking. I vaguely felt in my heart that it was not a dream at all, it really existed. I hugged Fu Shiyan and said, you are not a monster. You are my love. You will be fine, and the child will be fine too. Fu Shiyan leaned on my shoulder and said, yes, it's different. This time, you are with me. My sister shouted anxiously from outside, sister. Brother-in-law. Dr. Lin is here. Can he come in? I changed Fu Shiyan into women's clothes and brought the doctor in. Dr. Lin glanced at Fu Shiyan and said with a click of his tongue, according to the rules, after the death of the holy maiden of the Wu clan, your lineage should have died out. He washed his hands and began to deliver Fu Shiyan's baby. I covered Fu Shiyan's eyes and held his hand tightly. Begging, Doctor, save Da. I wanted to be saved. Dr. Lin said with disdain, you gave me so much money just to save the big one. Don't worry, I'll save them all for you, big or small. A baby girl was cut out from Fu Shiyan's belly. A crumpled ball, crying loudly. Dr. Lin kept working and quickly sewed up Fu Shiyan's stomach. He said calmly, don't worry. For thousands of years, men have given birth to children in their clan. They won't die. They'll be alive and kicking in less than 2 months. The child was wrapped in swaddling clothes and had black hair. After crying for a long time, she pouts and falls asleep unconsciously. Fu Shiyan forced himself to stay awake, took a look, and then fell into a deep sleep. Dr. Lin teased the baby and stuffed a pill into Fu Shiyan's mouth. He glanced at me for a few moments and then said, "Look at your confused look. Are you thinking about the past? Well, let me make a good connection with you." When Dr. Lin left, he gave me a stick of incense. When I was confused, I lit incense to clear my mind. 14 passed. It was the same in my previous life. I mistook Qin Mingchuan for the third young master. In Jingyuan, we fell in love with each other over time. The Marquis's wife beat me severely. Since then, I have developed a chronic illness. Qin Mingchuan was forced to marry the daughter of the Cheng'an Marquis family, and with the help of his father-in-law's family's influence, he got a real job and was sent to a distant place. He took me away too. We spent 6 years together, loving and affectionate, and even had a child. It was not until the Marquis's wife fell ill that Qin Mingchuan took me and the children back home. When his wife Li Yuru saw him, she just smiled silently. She waited for him for 6 years without any regrets. He took us back, and Li Yuru didn't show any resentment at all. Qin Mingchuan treats me sincerely. But his true heart is weak. At the request of the Marquis' wife, he decided to leave a legitimate son at home. That night, I held my son in the room and watched the candle burn out. I can't blame, and I can't blame. If you want to be a concubine, you should have the awareness of being a concubine. The next day, I knelt on the ground respectfully and served tea to Li Yuru. After all, Qin Mingchuan grew up in Beijing and still likes life in Beijing. Once I come back, I can't leave. Li Yuru treats me very well. I kept a low profile and did not dare to overstep my bounds. My old leg injury relapsed, so I asked someone to call a doctor. But he was blocked in the room by Li Yuru, who said indifferently, "Just bear with it. Some things are just what you have to bear." Yes, it's my fault. Li Yuru treated me kindly in front of others, but did many small things to me behind my back. She instigated my son, saying that he couldn't hold his head up in the capital because he had a mother like me. I fought her about it. Win and lose. Qin Mingchuan hugged me and said, "Just be patient. I won't let you down on money after all." I lowered my head and said nothing. A man's sincerity will be worn away. He can cherish me for once and make decisions for me for once. It's hard to say what will happen the second and third time. Behind Li Yuru's back, I knelt in her room and said, "Madam, please spare me. From now on, I will follow your lead." She smiled and said, "My husband's heart is hanging on you. How dare I make things difficult for you?" Since then, I gradually cooled down my attitude towards Qin Mingchuan. He couldn't get any warmth and comfort from me, so he would go to see my wife from time to time. My life has indeed become better. I breathed a sigh of relief, but also felt a little disappointed. Men, that's actually how it is. I touched the moist jade bracelet on my hand, and didn't feel empty. But, one night, Qin Mingchuan pushed the door open drunkenly. He hugged me and said bitterly, "Qin Jiao, you have such a cruel heart. Just to make your life easier, you pushed me away. I don't want to, do you know that? Why didn't you just keep me here? But what can we do if he doesn't want to? Li Yuru is his wife. Madame Ho is his mother. In this tall house, he has to bow his head." I shed tears too. That night, we hugged each other and cried together. Qin Mingchuan kissed me and said, "Li Yuru is pregnant, and I've paid off my debt to my family. Jiao, there's a rebellion in the north. I'll follow the Prince of Ning to quell the rebellion, earn military merit, and return without having to rely on my family anymore." Qin Mingchuan is back. He was fine when he left, but turned into a cold corpse when he came back. The Marquis's wife hated me so much that she wanted to strangle me that night. I hugged my son, terrified. The door was forced open. Someone came in, pulled me up from the ground, and took me away without saying a word. It's Fu Shiyan, the poor Taoist priest whom I abandoned. He rose to prominence and even became the Prince of Ning. Fu Shiyan has a beautiful and proud daughter. Everyone knows that the prince dotes on his daughter. The child stood in the distance and looked at me curiously, and I gave her a flattering smile. He saved my life, perhaps because he was angry with me for betraying him. But I don't care about that. Qin Mingchuan is dead, and I have to live. After 3 years of mourning for Qin Mingchuan, Fu Shiyan and I began to live an unclear life. The people in the palace treated me with great respect and never showed me any disrespect. Fu Shiyan was still as lukewarm as before. I hate his coldness and miss Qin Mingchuan's tenderness and affection. When she was secretly crying, she was caught by Fu Shiyan. He stared at me. I didn't hide my feelings and said, "Can't you be a little gentler to me? You have a cold face all day long, as if I owe you a lot of money. If you really hate me, just don't touch me and let me go. Why are you so cold? Think about it later. There is resentment only when there is expectation. There is resentment because love is confused and uncertain. The Marquis's wife is risking everything to kill me." The arrow pierced my heart. Fu Shiyan hugged me, his whole body trembling. "Qin Jiao Jiao. Live another life, let's live another life, okay?" I cried helplessly, "In this life, you must treat me well. Buy me beautiful jewelry, hold me in your arms and whisper sweet nothings to me. Never look at me coldly as I leave again." Fu Shiyan choked up and said, "Okay, whatever you say is fine." 15 Fu Shiyan's extra chapter. My life story is somewhat unremarkable. My mother is a naive witch saint who can't even speak Chinese clearly. By chance, he saved a man who was framed and seriously injured. My father is an extremely powerful prince. I lived with my mother in hiding, but my heart was restless. After recovering from his injuries, he began to think about revenge and taking back what belonged to him. My father made up his mind and returned to the capital. When my mother took me there, we discovered that my father had remarried. She took me home in silence. I used my life to swear a blood curse, cursing my father to have no offspring, and never have a good end. Before she died, she left me a shocking secret. I inherited the physique of the witch clan, and can give birth. I sat in front of her grave, unable to accept the news for a long time. Look through the books she left behind. If I can't have children before I'm 20, I'll die. I went to a Taoist temple to practice meditation, copying scriptures every day to calm my guilty conscience. Force yourself to accept this fact. It was also at that time that I met the cruel woman Qin Jiao Jiao. Her appearance was indeed outstanding in the small town of Qingshui. She has rosy cheeks and a rosy face, and is delicate and bright. A blink of her beautiful eyes could make many men stunned and unable to walk. She has shallow desires. He often knelt in front of the temple, sincerely praying for glory and wealth. If you really don't have wealth and splendor, just ask for a jade hairpin and a pair of pearl earrings. In short, never burn incense in vain. She asked for a fortune and asked me to interpret it. The look in his eyes when he looked at me was not innocent. She is not shy like other girls, but straightforward and honest. It was almost written on his face that he wanted something from me. What are you asking for? A one-time love affair? I have a good appearance. I thought to myself, if I were to have a child with anyone, Qin Jiao Jiao wouldn't he be a bad choice? At least, I don't hate her. But I didn't expect that she didn't seek sex. She pestered me to learn calligraphy, read books and play the pipa. I hid behind her and heard her kneeling and praying. I will use the skills Fu Shiyan taught me to seduce you, my lord. Please bless me and I will succeed. I listened with a blank expression. Fortunately, I don't have any feelings for her. I treated her coldly, but she didn't care. When she was 18, she flirted with me, and then disappeared after sleeping with me. Just what I want, I thought. I gave birth to the child alone, and before I knew it, I hated her to the core. I have suffered so much. She, on the other hand, was living a carefree life outside with Qin Mingchuan. When she returned to Beijing, she saw her and Qin Mingchuan choosing jewelry in the shop. After not seeing each other for many years, she finally got what she wanted. She wore silk and satin and wore gold and silver jewelry. When I got home, I looked at my daughter's eyes, which were exactly the same as Qin Jiaojiao's. I tossed and turned at night and couldn't sleep. I was so angry. After much talk, we found the source of that energy. I didn't let her go. Qin Mingchuan died, what a good death. I brought Qin Jiaojiao back. Look at her carefully protecting her son, and watching my daughter from afar. I hated her so much in my heart that I didn't have a good face towards her. Until she died in my arms. I am willing to admit that I hate because of love. I didn't let go of Qin Jiaojiao. But she let me go early. If there is an afterlife, Qin Jiaojiao, I will still be waiting for you in the Taoist temple. If you leave, I will chase you. I will no longer be cold to you, and I will give you all the wealth and glory. Okay. 16 extras. When the 2-year agreement was over, Qin Mingchuan didn't come to pick me up. It was only when I arrived in Beijing that I realized how miserable he was. The Marquis committed a crime and got into a fight with someone in a brothel while drunk. In an accident, he pushed someone down the stairs and killed him. It just so happens that His Majesty wants to take good care of these noble families who inherited the title. The Marquis was imprisoned that night. I don't know whether I can keep this title. Li Yuru, the eldest daughter of the Cheng'an Marquis' mansion, is still deeply in love with Qin Mingchuan. As long as I can marry him, I am willing to help his family solve their problems. Qin Mingchuan married her and accepted this favor, and he never felt free again. He couldn't pick me up. What if you take me over? Do you want me to kneel before the mistress every day and serve tea, and be so humble that I can't even raise my head? But the money still kept being sent to me. But there was not a single letter. After the 2-year period was up, I never accepted any money from Qin Mingchuan again. Fu Shiyan returned all the money he had sent earlier. He was jealous and showed me the letter Qin Mingchuan had written to him. What does he like about you? Take a closer look. I think your dressing style is fresh and refined, so your taste is cultivated by me. I like the elegance of your handwriting, but that's what I taught you, stroke by stroke. I think your pipa playing is artistic and calming, and you don't even notice who your master is. After hearing this, I was so angry that I asked him, could it be that, apart from all this, I am useless and unworthy of Qin Mingchuan's love? Fu Shiyan, you are making me so sad when you say that. Fu Shiyan held my hand and whispered, I just feel that there are too many things about you that people like, and that's why I feel uncomfortable. I'm not angry anymore. He is also very good at speaking sweet words. Someone from the capital came to find him. It turned out that his father had just like in his previous life, with all his sons dead. Only then did he think of taking Fu Shiyan back. I immediately said, let's go back and vent our anger on my mother-in-law. Fu Shiyan smiled when he heard the word mother-in-law. My daughter turned over in her crib, and looked at us in a daze. We held our breath and dared not speak for fear of waking her up. Fortunately, she closed her eyes and fell asleep again. He is just over 2 years old. He is cute but also torturous. Went to the capital and settled down. I met Qin Mingchuan by chance in a tea shop. When he saw me, he was stunned and his eyes turned red. I looked him in the eye, then walked over to him and whispered, do you remember anything from your past life? When we were in Jingyuan, all the inexplicable affection he showed me had answers. Qin Mingchuan apologized first, in my past life, I was not responsible enough, causing you to suffer a lot. Tears welled up in my eyes and I turned my face away to wipe them away. After calming down for a moment, she smiled at him, Mingchuan, let's all look forward. In this life, you live well, and I will live well too. Li Yuru has you in her heart, and lives her life with all her heart. The difficulties facing the Marquis mansion are only temporary and will pass. Many words were swirling in Qin Mingchuan's mind. In the end, he just responded softly, "Okay, I'll listen to you." He didn't ask about my relationship with Fu Shiyan. This is a silent consideration for me. I wiped my tears and went back to the private room. Fu Shiyan took the candied haws he bought for his daughter and stuffed them into my mouth. I looked down from the window and saw my daughter and sister shopping downstairs. Fu Shiyan pinched my face and asked me, "Have you let go of your worries? Look at how affectionate you are." I chewed on the sour hawthorn and glanced at him. "Don't be so jealous. Things from the past life were resolved in the past life. In this life, he and I have only been together for a few months. How can there be any deep affection?" Fu Shiyan hugged me and whispered, "If it weren't for Qin Mingchuan, why haven't you touched me in the past 2 years? Even when you were extremely anxious after your period, you just avoided me and slept with your sister. Don't lie to me, you're not the kind of person who doesn't care about desires." I blushed and said, "I'm afraid you'll get pregnant." Fu Shiyan whispered in my ear, "After having given birth once, it won't be that easy to get pregnant again. Let he sleep with my younger sister tonight, okay?" He grabbed my hand and put it inside his clothes. I was so distracted, "Let's go home now." Fu Shiyan handed me a cup of tea and said, "It's broad daylight, drink some tea and calm your mind." He actually pretended. I went shopping until noon before going home. As soon as I entered the main hall, I saw a familiar figure sitting there. She turned around, looked at me and smiled. There were 2 lines of tears on my aunt's pale and thin face. I rushed over and hugged her, "Auntie." It turned out that Fu Shiyan didn't let me go home because he was waiting to give me a surprise. My life is complete. I get whatever I ask for. I, Chen Jiao, am so proud of myself. End.